And after that comes everyone that makes the foundation possible. To all of our individual members, corporate members, special partner institutions, and senior special partner institutions, all of whom without the foundation would not be here today. The Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation is in partnership with the Management Association of the Philippines, and we are a member-supported nonprofit foundation. It is only through the generosity and support of our members and donors that we are able to bring you our educational sessions every 2 weeks, as well as work for poverty reduction in the Philippines through job creation by encouraging by encouraging sorry by encouraging people to build small agribusinesses throughout the countryside. Through these educational sessions, we hope we can inspire you by showing the stories of those who are entrepreneurs and small agribusinesses in their own rights, and in the hopes that in doing so, um, we will be able to inspire you to build your own businesses and bring jobs to our fellow Filipinos. Good morning to everyone again. I'm your president and host this morning, Julius Barcelona. And so if you're joining us this morning, good morning. Glad to see you here again. And if you're joining us through our social media uploads, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever in the world you may be, and whatever time you might be watching this from. We hope that today's session brings you a lot of value. Um, we hope that you would consider liking and subscribing our channel or giving us a follow on Facebook and leaving us a comment down below. If you have questions about today's sessions or you'd like to get connected with our speaker or with other members of the organization, please let us know. We'd be very happy to get to know you. All right. So, our chair this morning, Secretary Ordonez is not around, but yeah, so please allow me to introduce our speaker for this morning. It's really quite interesting when you talk about small agribusiness development, because one of the interesting ways that you can develop small agribusinesses is taking what interesting raw materials you can get from a local operation and then turning that into a new product, turning that into a value added product. And value adding really is one of the main ways that you can bring new value, create new jobs, in your community, since it tends to be rather a labor intensive sort of thing. So our speaker this morning is a registered agriculturist and a top 10 passer of the 2025 licensure examination. Congratulations, sir. That is not a small a small task. He is a magna cum laude graduate and former college valedictorian for agricultural technology let me just check. From Caraga State University in Ambayan, Butuan City. Um, yes, okay. And currently, he is an instructor at Caraga State University with a strong background in organic agriculture and extension services. He won third place in the National Young Farmers Challenge here in the Philippines. Um, and really, I think it's quite something to say that someone who has really given his all for academic achievement is now trying to find a way to develop new products, develop new ways of creating products out of our own natural resources here in the Philippines. So, without further ado, please allow me the immense pleasure of welcoming to speak for us this morning, Mr. Mauro S. Goyo Jr., a registered agriculturist. Mauro, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, Sir Julius. Thank you so much for the introduction. And by the way, yes, I am Mauro SG Jr., and the Chief Operating Officer of Black Gold Food Corporation. And I would like to extend first my sincerest gratitude to IBCD Foundation for the opportunity to speak here today. And I hope that our story in Black Gold will inspire young minds to venture into agribusiness, of course, because we all know for the fact that the agriculture sector here in the Philippines is not that well established. So, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, good morning once again to the listeners today. And today I will be sharing the story of Black Gold from farm to functional food, scaling Black Gold NutriBar as a model for inclusive agribusiness. I'd like to start with a simple reflection. If you think about agriculture in the Philippines, it plays a very significant role in our economy. It feeds our population, supports millions of livelihoods, and is deeply embedded in our culture. But at the same time, there is a reality that is hard to ignore. Many of our people who produce our food remain economically vulnerable. And that raises a very important question. If agriculture creates value, why don't farmers fully feel it? That question stayed with us, especially for me as an agriculture graduate and a former student before, and being a part of the sector. And it became the starting point of what eventually became Black Gold Nutribar. Today, I will share the story of the product and the reflection on how we might rethink agribusiness as a tool for inclusive development. In many rural communities, poverty still persists, not because farmers are lazy or they lack effort. In fact, if we really look at it, farmers are among the most resilient individuals. Every day, they deal with uncertainty and unpredictable weather conditions, fluctuating market prices, and continuously rising input costs. But the real issue goes deeper than that. According to FAO, or Food and Agriculture Organization, smallholder farmers produce around one third of the world's food. In the Philippines, they also serve as the backbone of the economy. Yet, despite this, they remain among the poorest. Data from the Philippine Statistics Authority shows that farmers have one of the highest poverty incidences or incidence rate, often around 30% or even higher, well above the national average. So clearly, productivity alone is not enough to lift them out of poverty. Now, the question is, why does this happen? If we look closely at the agricultural value chain, we start to see where the problem really lies. Most smallholder farmers are concentrated at the production stage, where the value of the product is still relatively low. After harvest, control shifts to other players in the chain, like traders, processors, distributors, and retailers. Each of them adds value through processing, packaging, branding, and marketing. And according to the World Bank, the value of agricultural products can increase by 2 to 5 times from farm to gate, from gate to retail. But the reality is, farmers usually receive only about 20 to 30% of the final price. So even if the total value of the product increases, the farmer exits the value chain too early, resulting in only a small share going back to them. This situation is further worsened by weak market linkages. Many farmers still rely heavily on middlemen or traders because they lack direct access to markets, storage facilities, transportation, and reliable market information. And as a result, they often forced to sell immediately after harvest when prices are at their lowest. This is what we call distress selling. Instead of being price makers, farmers become price takers. At the same time, there is another issue that often goes unnoticed: underutilization of indigenous crops. In our case, for example, black rice or Rhiza sativa L. indica was once widely grown here in Caraga. But over time, due to limited demand and low buying prices from traders, many farmers became discouraged from continuing production. This is despite the fact that black rice is rich in antioxidants and is nutrient dense, making it highly valuable for health-conscious markets. However, in many rural areas, black rice is still sold in its raw form, without any value addition. According to the Department of Agriculture, when value-adding activities are introduced, such as processing into snacks, functional foods, or other products, farmer can increase their income by up to 50% or more. This raises an important strategic question. How do we redesign agricultural systems so that producers participate in value creation beyond cultivation? This means going beyond simple transactional buying. Let me make this more concrete. Imagine a farmer who produces high quality crops at harvest, he is forced to sell immediately, even at a low price, because he has no storage and no direct access to the market. So even if his product has high potential value, most of that value goes to others down the chain. And this is where frustration builds because the system essentially teaches farmers just produce, someone will buy, but it doesn't teach them how to capture value, how to negotiate, or how to access better markets. So the cycle continues, and even after decades, the situation remains largely the same. When we saw this value chain clearly, we realized something uncomfortable. The system is efficient, but not equitable. It is efficient because products move and reach the market, but it is not equitable because the value is not shared fairly. And that is where we need to rethink things. It is not enough for a system to simply work. We also need to ask, who is it really working for? Excuse me. So, this is Black Gold's approach. Instead of simply sourcing raw materials through layers of intermediaries, we aim to build more direct and transparent linkages with farmers. It didn't start as a perfect system and is still evolving, but it was deliberate enough or a choice for us to work closer to the source. Why is this important? Because for many farmers, the biggest challenge is not just low prices, it's unpredictability. They don't know when buyers will come, how much they will be paid, or whether there will still be demand in the next harvest. And when uncertainty is high, farmers tend to play it safe. They hesitate to expand or invest because there's no assurance. But when there is consistent demand, fair pricing, and clear market signals, something changes. Farmer begins to shift from survival mode to planning mode. They become more confident in production, more intentional in managing their output, and more capable of making long-term decisions. And that shift is critical if we are talking about sustainable, long-term development, not just short-term income. So in this model, the supply chain is not just about moving goods. It is about creating stability and participation. In our case, for example, for black milled rice, we buy directly from the farmers at around 80 pesos per kilo. If you compare that to the typical price offered by compradors, which can be as low as 45 pesos per kilo, that is a 35 peso difference. And that added value goes directly to the farmers, not to intermediaries. Not to confuse you, this 80 pesos um, price that we are offering to farmers is comparable to the retail price in the market, which is also 85 pesos. We may not be able to change the entire system overnight, but even at this level, you can already see the impact. It shows that when you adjust how value is distributed, even in small ways, you begin to make the system more fair. So, how did Black Gold started? No, by the way. So Black Gold didn't start as a full business plan. Honestly, it started as a simple idea, like a what if. What if we could connect farmers to higher value markets? What if we could create something that it isn't about a product, but has a purpose? Something that creates value not only for us, but also for the people behind raw materials. It wasn't perfect from the start, and we didn't have a clear system. We had no capital, and more importantly, we had no certainty if the idea would actually go anywhere. But there was one thing we had belief that maybe, just maybe, this could work. That belief pushed us to take a risk. we joined the Innovates Caraga competition, which was sponsored by the Department of Science and Technology last June 14, 2024. And to be completely honest, we didn't join because we were ready. We joined because we need to. We had no money. Our mindset was simple. If we win, we will have 8,000 pesos, and that's enough to start. At that point, it wasn't about recognition or validation. It was about survival. We just needed an opportunity to begin. And Innovates is the opportunity that were given to us. And actually, we didn't expect to win this competition because there were a total of 45 entries all over Caraga region competing against each other. No? Intercollegiate, so we have different universities joining this competition. And unexpectedly, we won. But while the win mattered, what mattered more was what happened during the process. That was the first time we really experienced what it means to build a product. Because having an idea is one thing, and it sounds good, it feels exciting, but it's a different story when you have to present it and defend it and explain why it actually has a value. That's where the reality check began. Suddenly, the question became more serious. Is there a market for this product? Will people actually buy it? Or can we produce it consistently? Not just once, but over and over again? Those questions force us to think deeper. It was no longer just a concept, it had to become something concrete. And that's where Blockbuild started to shift from just an idea in our minds to something that could actually exist in the real world. From something we imagine to something we have to build. That 8,000 peso price might seem small to others, but for us at that time, it was everything. It was our starting line. And yeah, we have no capital, no fallback, no safety net. And that's where one of the most important decisions we made came in. Instead of using the money for ourselves and instead of treating it as a personal reward, we choose to reinvest it. It wasn't an easy decision, especially when you are financially tight, but we realized that if we just spent it, the opportunity would end there. So we treated that 8,000 pesos as a seed capital. We bought the most basic ingredients we needed to start. We looked for simple but presentable packaging materials. We started small, very small, but with intention. And that's where the real mindset shift began. It was no longer about how do we make the money right away, but how do we grow this, even if this is just small. From that point on, our perspective changed and every peso mattered. Every mistake began and became a lesson. And every small progress, no matter how small, became the proof that this had a potential. And after that, as we continue, we joined different summits and exhibits. And that experience changed everything. It wasn't just exposure, it was a real immersion into the outside world. We were presenting to professors or classmates who already understood our context, and also we faced actual consumers with different needs, expectations, and standards. And that is where we encountered something very important: the feedback, because we all know that classroom feedback alone is very different from how actual consumers respond. In the classroom, feedback is often structured, guided, and sometimes considerate. But people evaluate based on theory, effort, and potential. And outside, there's no filter. That's where you see if people actually understand your product, if it still needs a long explanation, or if they're genuinely interested or just passing by. And most importantly, if they are willing to pay, because at that time, Black Boot cost around 25 pesos per bar. Yeah, per bar. And they individuals who see it find it a little bit expensive. And at the end of the day, interest is one thing also, but willingness to pay is a completely different reality. And the feedback isn't always positive, no. And sometimes it's harsh. People will directly say they don't understand it or don't need it. Sometimes it's confusing. You'll hear mixed responses. Some says it's good, others says it's lacking. Some says it's expensive, and others say it's cheap. And that's where the real challenge comes in. Learning how to filter the noise and find the patterns. Because we all know that not all feedback should be allowed and or followed, and all not but all feedback should be understood. The process is uncomfortable because It forces you to question your assumptions. You think something is already clear, but it isn't. You think it's valuable, but others don't see it yet. You think it's ready, but there's still a lot to fix. But that's exactly where real learning happens. Not in validation, but in correction. Over time, we learned how to listen better, not just what people say, but also what they don't say. We started observing their reactions, hesitations, or even silence. From there, we adapted, we simplified our messaging and improved the product and adjusted our pricing, packaging, and even how we told our story. And as we kept doing that, we noticed something important. The idea began to evolve, and it was no longer just a requirement or an academic concept that sounded good on paper. It became a solution, a practical solution, something shaped by real needs, validated by people, and tested in real situations. And that is a time when we realize that innovation is not about having the best idea from the start. It's about having the courage to continuously improve that idea again and again until it truly works in the real world. So, as we join different competitions, we've won some competitions, and yeah, until we've reached last June, no, July. No, we reached July 2025 last year, and we joined the national competition in Young Farmers Challenge, which was sponsored by the Department of Agriculture, specifically agribusiness and AMAD, not to be exact, the division of AMAD. So this part became more personal for us because we reached to a point we already had our product potential. We could see the demand, people were asking, and there was genuine interest. But at the same time, we also felt that we could only go as far because of the limited capacity. Our production back then was very manual. Almost everything was done by hand. Sometimes the output was okay, sometimes it wasn't that consistent. And whenever people asked if we could supply in larger volumes, we could confidently answer yes. Not because we didn't want to, but because we simply weren't capable yet. It was frustrating because the opportunity was already there, but we couldn't fully reach it. That's when we realized that having a good idea is not enough, and you also need to deliver, sustain, and scale up. Because of that, the university, no, we've grabbed the opportunity that the university have offered to us as a representative for the National Young Farmers Challenge and the regional also. First, of course, the regional Young Farmers Challenge. Then, after we won in the regional, we represented the region in the national level. So, to be honest, at first it was more of let's just try it, this mindset. So we didn't really expect to win. Imagine if you're competing against brilliant individuals from all over the Philippines. So that is not a simple feat to commit. So yeah, as we went through the process, representing the concept, explaining our business model, and sharing our journey, we started to understand more deeply that we were actually building a system. It wasn't just a Nutribar or a food item. It was a system that we're building, from sourcing raw materials to processing and to connecting with the market. And more we saw the bigger picture, the clearer it became that there was really a direction to what we are doing. Until the moment came when it was announced that we were the winner of the National Young Farmers Challenge, and we've received a total of 500,000 pesos cash grant. So overall, we've received 250,000 pesos from the regional and another 500,000. So all in all, so we received a total of 750,000 pesos. Okay, and it wasn't the kind of win we were where we immediately celebrated. It wasn't purely happiness. What stood out was more of feeling that okay, we now have a responsibility because we knew it. We're no longer just about um joining competition, but someone had placed trust in us, and we needed to prove that we could use it properly. We didn't spend the grant on things that just look good, but we've invested it in what is truly needed. So we purchased equipment like a dehydrator, a band sealer, and other tools that help improve production. So yeah, it wasn't that. glamorous, nothing that you would immediately post on social media, but it was extremely critical. We improved the processing setup, organized the workflow, and tried to make operations more systematic. Slowly, we started to feel the difference from inconsistency and difficulty. Production became more organized, more efficient, and more reliable. We were now able to answer the question, can you supply? Because this time, we had the capacity. That's when we realized that equipment is not just a tool. It is what gives you the ability to scale. Because no matter how good the idea is or how big the demand becomes, if you don't have the tools to execute, of course, you will struggle. For us, the Young Farmers Challenge was not just about funding. So it became a validation that we were building a business that had a potential and an opportunity to bring it to a more serious level. That was the moment we transitioned from we have an idea to we can actually build and grow this. And if there's one thing we learned from it, it is this. There are many good ideas in agribusiness, but only a few are given the chances to grow like us. And when the chance comes, it's not enough to just say, be ready. You have to be intentional, disciplined, and responsible enough in how you use the grant. Looking back now, I think the most important thing that Young Farmers Challenge gave us was not just funding. It gave us also confidence where our idea makes sense, that our direction is valid, and that the work we are doing actually mattered. And sometimes, especially in the early stage, that is what you really needed, not just money, but the belief that what you are doing has value and can be taken to the next level. So the Young Farmers Challenge was held in Baguio City, and we were fortunate enough to be one of the competitors or during this time. So our accommodation and everything is provided by the organizer. So yeah. Um, so after the Young Farmers Challenge, we started to feel its impact, not just internally but externally as well. Suddenly, there are a lot of opportunities that had opened in ways we didn't expect. We started receiving invitations to share our story in different platforms like podcasts, summits, and even small speaking engagement. We were also invited by Manila Bulletin to um, share our story to them. And luckily, our story were published in their journal. So at first, it felt a bit surprising because we were used to working quietly behind the product. Then all of a sudden, there was external interest. People wanted to hear how we built it, what the model was, and what our vision looked like. Through these experiences, we realized something important. We weren't just developing a product, we were also developing a story that connects to a larger conversation about agribusiness and rural development. Every time we spoke in those spaces, we weren't just promoting Black Gold also. We were also bringing attention to the realities of farmers, the importance of value adding, and the potential of indigenous crops. At the same time, these opportunities also helped us grow, and we were exposed to different perspectives from entrepreneurs, policymakers, and development workers. There were questions we had never thought about before, and insights that helped refine our direction. So it became a two-way process. We're not only sharing our experience, but also learning from others. In a way, this exposure became a part of our scaling journey because beyond funding and equipment, visibility really matters also. Another important step in our journey was building our team. As production started to improve and demand slowly increased, we reached a point where it was already clear that we could no longer do everything in our own. What used to feel manageable suddenly became overwhelming. More orders to fulfill and more processes to maintain and higher expectations to meet. And we realized that if we truly wanted to grow, we had to learn how to involve other people in the process. So we decided to open up opportunities within our university and bring in student assistants to join Black Gold production team. In total, We hired 8 students. Um, but for us, this was never just about adding manpower. It was about building a team, people who could grow with us and become part of something real. We saw it as both an operational need and an opportunity to expand what we are doing and at the same time give fellow students hands-on experience in a real agribusiness setup, something that is often difficult to fully understand inside the classroom alone. We also made sure that this step was intentional. We provided them with a compensation of 58 pesos per hour, not just as allowance, but as a recognition that their time and effort had real value. Now, if you compare that with most rates here inside the university for student assistants, which is 25 pesos per hour, so our offer is a little bit high, and we really intentionally set that rate to help students um, sustain their needs here inside the university. And of course, we've also properly oriented them, not only in technical tasks, but also on how to approach the work itself. So we emphasize professionalism, consistency, and of course, the responsibility that they need to perform. Because for us, um, they were part of the system we are building. So we also require them to sign non-disclosure agreements, not because we wanted to over strictly or not because we're over strict or formal, but because this was one of the moments where we continuously shifted into treating Black Gold as a serious enterprise. We already had processes, formulations, and systems that we had to work hard to develop, and we understood that protecting them was part of sustaining the business. It was also a way of reinforcing a mindset within the team that trust and accountability always go together. Through this experience, we realized that scaling is not about increasing production or acquiring equipment. It is also about learning how to build people, create structure, and establish culture. Because at the end of the day, a business does not grow on ideas and systems alone. It goes through the people who believe in it and work in it every day. What made this part even more interesting for us is um it was no longer just kami-kami na lang. No? It became an actual working setup. The students were not just following the command step by step, but they were also seeing how the Nutribor was really made from start to finish. We trained them hands-on, doing the actual process with them, and preparing the ingredients all the way to packaging. And while doing that, constant inyong adjustment. Now, there were constant adjustments. And there were days when the mixing wasn't right, batches that didn't pass the quality, or times when we ran out of material. So we had to fix things together in the spot, and it wasn't that smooth all along. It was really trial and error. Honestly, not everything went well. There were repetitions, wasted batches, and times when production slowed down because people were still learning. But we were okay with that because that's where the learning actually happened. For them and for us, we also realized that not everything can be solved just by giving instructions. Sometimes you really need to be there, watching, correcting, and while guiding them the work that is what is being done. For us, the bigger adjustment was handling people. Before it was just us doing everything, so there wasn't much that we need to explain. But now we had to teach, repeat instructions, check outputs, and sometimes even go back to production ourselves when the quality wasn't met. To be honest, it was exhausting at the times, but you're not just managing work, you're also managing people and expectations. Once what you're building starts to expand, it starts to say as a solo effort, it doesn't say as a effort anymore. You need systems, even if they're not perfect yet. You need to learn how to trust, how to guide people, and how to manage people while still making sure that quality doesn't deteriorate. So, in the product development and formulation phase of Black Gold, This is what usually people ask. Why black rice? Why black rice? So we selected black rice, by the way, because it represents both the opportunity and there is a contradiction behind it. On one hand, it has a very high potential. Black rice is nutritionally superior, as I've stated a while ago, rich in antioxidants, particularly anthocyanins, and high in dietary fibers. It also offers more health benefits compared to regular white rice. And because of this, it fits well to the growing market of health conscious consumers. People who are now mindful for what they eat and actively looking for nutrient dense food options. Globally, demand for healthier and more natural products is increasing, which positions black rice as a strong and promising raw material. On the other hand, despite its nutritional and market potential, again, black rice remains underutilized and under-commercialized. In many rural areas, like here in Caraga, it is still sold as a raw commodity, treated like an ordinary rice, without significant value addition such as processing and product development. And as a result, instead of capturing its full value, it is still sold at relatively um, not fair prices. This creates a clear gap: high value in terms of nutrition and demand, but low value in terms of actual income for farmers. This gap is exactly where we saw the opportunity. It made black rice an ideal starting point for our project because it allowed us to explore bigger questions. Can indigenous crops move beyond simple agricultural outputs and become competitive? This is not just about production. We think to position, innovate, and integrate it in the market. Instead of treating black rice as just another crop, we began to see it as a platform for value creation, something that can be transformed into a functional food. And ultimately, this approach shows that indigenous crops, when supported by right strategy and innovation, can compete, scale, and generate greater economic benefits, especially for the farmers who produce them. In selecting our ingredients, we've consulted to our mentor, Mr. Genesis Jared Cotamora, a registered food technologist. So we have cashew nuts here, mango, black rice, moringa, honey. Of course, we also have dark chocolate and other secret ingredients. So we focused using locally available ingredients, not just as a cost saving decision, but an attempt to build a more grounded and sustainable system. Because if we think about it, the usual problem in many agricultural systems is that value is quickly extracted away from the source. Farmers produce, but most of the value is captured somewhere else along the chain. So our approach made the supply chain more connected and more transparent. Instead of relying heavily on distant or external sources, we were able to work more closely with local producers and available resources. In that way, sourcing becomes not just as a procurement process, but a part of the impact itself. For our development and formulation strategy, we this is the first prototype of the product. So for us, this is presentable enough. So by the way, this was before Young Farmers Challenge. No, so this is at the very early stage of our development. So yeah, so the packaging that we've used is paper based, no, paper based for the secondary packaging, and for the first, no, the first primary packaging is somewhat provided by the mentor, by our mentor. So this is just usually the packaging for food items. So, however, as we move forward and started exposing the product to a wider audience, our perspective began to change. What we initially thought was already good enough turned out to still have a lot of room for improvement. We started noticing details we had overlooked before, how people reacted to the packaging. No? This was the thing that we've observed. How they understand the product and how presentation affected perception. So this experience taught us an important lesson. Product development is not a one-time output, but a continuous process. So we need to improve the first version. And over time, we have um, this version here. But before that, we use the first version as our prototype for market testing. Um, one key example of that is we received feedback from the Ampayon Central School learners, no? And they say that they like the taste and texture of the product. Some even compared it to a pure chocolate bar, which was very encouraging for us because it was a sign that the product really has a potential. However, when it came to packaging, the majority did find it appealing. So we need to improve that. And through that assessment, we have produced this, the second prototype. So this was still at the early version of the product. At that time, we used coffee packaging simply because it was the available and what our budget could afford. We didn't really have the luxury to choose ideal materials, so we worked with that what we have. Visually, it was already somewhat presentable. So the packaging had a decent and appealing color. So at first glance, it looked okay. However, when we looked deeper into the product experience, we started noticing issues like the texture was quite hard. The tier portion, like where you will start to tier for opening the product, is not that visible. So again, we recalibrated our product packaging. And until after winning Young Farmers Challenge, we have the opportunity to really improve our product. So this is currently our packaging material here. So for the primary packaging, this one here and this one here is the secondary packaging. We really invested aside from equipment to packaging because that's we also realized that is something important. No matter how good your product is, if the packaging doesn't communicate its value, it becomes difficult to enter the market. Before, our packaging was very basic. It was functional, yes, but not yet competitive when placed side by side with other products. So we made a deliberate decision to improve it. We invested time, effort, and resources into upgrading how Black Gold looks and feels as a product, from design, labeling, and overall presentation, making sure it reflects what we stand for: a premium, health conscious, and purpose driven product. And this importance is supported by consumer data. Study shows that around 70% of purchases decisions are made at the point of sale, meaning consumers often decide based on what they immediately see. In addition, about 72% of consumers say that packaging design influences their buying decisions. So that is why we really invested on packaging. Okay, for the market position and demand creation, we established partnerships with various local institutions and organizations. So we've collaborated with local gyms for our market, DTI negotiation centers, one-stop shops, and the Butuan City Tourism Department, and of course, school canteens here inside the university. This partnership allowed us to reach different types of consumers, from students to health conscious individuals, and helped us introduce Black Gold to a wider and more diverse market. And for our supply, we partner with, specifically for black rice, we partner with the Butuan City Organic Agriculture Cooperative, other with other businesses within Young Farmers Challenge and the Caraga Network, so that we're able to strengthen both our market presence and supply chain. So this is an overview of the amount, in terms of kilograms or the amount of raw materials that we can buy from our farmers locally. So yeah, it's not that huge, but at least we can create a demand for their products. So for the market positioning and demand creation, so we have considered um, oh no, let me ask a simple question. When you buy food today, what do you really look at it? Is it just the price, or do you also consider health, convenience, or the ingredients also, or even the story behind the brand? Because if you think about it, today's consumers are really different. It's no longer just about as long as it fills you up. So you are now more conscious about their health, their lifestyle, and the choice they make. And for us, that's where we saw the opportunity. So we didn't try to force the demand. We simply listened to what the people were already looking for. So when we positioned Black Gold Nutribar, we aligned with that shift. We saw that more and more consumers are looking for snacks that are not only convenient but are also functional. So but also functional, something that I need to eat without guilt. Something that is easy to bring, easy to consume, and still offers a real nutritional value. And instead of competing on price, we made a conscious decision not to compete in that space. Because if it is only about price, there will always be something cheaper. So we focus on value. We position Black Gold as a health-focused functional snack. We highlighted black rice as a core ingredient, not just because it is unique, but because it actually has a strong nutritional benefits. Yeah. And this is our target market. So this includes physically active individuals seeking a clean energy boost, busy professionals and students who need convenient and on-the-go nutrition, and health-conscious consumers looking for mindful local alternatives to junk food. So for now, this is our target market. This was based on our assessments and surveys. And we're planning to expand our production soon. So we have our featured variants here. No? So we have black gold with pineapple, plus pineapple here, pineapple flavored. And then we also have strawberry flavored and the cocoa knit bits. So for the strawberry, we already had a potential partner for this one. So an awardee also Young Farmers Challenge, which grows strawberry here in Butuan City. And for the cacao, we also have another Young Farmers Challenge awardee from Agusan del Sur, which has a uh, made up factory or a factory for cacao. And for the pineapple, we're trying to source out from Bukidnon because Bukidnon is just not it's just near here in Butuan also. So the key lessons for agribusiness development that we've learned in venturing Black Gold is, of course, first is value should be created locally. If we continue exporting raw materials, we also export the opportunity to earn more. Value adding allows us to increase income potential, generate local jobs, and strengthen rural economies. Second, system matter more than the product. A good product can still fail in a weak system. That is why we really build um, a good system for Black Gold. A system that makes our production more efficient, um, more reliable. Because imagine before, when everything is manual, we can produce a total of 70 bars per 10 hours. That is where the time when um, we founders are the only one who produces not the NutriBar. And after we develop our system, we've hired um, individuals like student assistants. We can now produce a total of 1,500 bars per day. So imagine that you compare 70 bars in 10 hours to 1,500 bars per day. So that is how a good system can create. And then iteration, of course, is essential. Of course, nothing is perfect at the beginning, and that is something we need to normalize. In our experience, improvement did not come from getting it right at the first time, but from repeatedly testing, adjusting, and refining. And finally, inclusion must be intentional. So, just because a business exists in agriculture does not mean farmers automatically benefit. Inclusion has to be intentional design embedded in sourcing, pricing, and relationships. So for our policy and investment insights, um, we look at assist inefficiencies. Of course, no. One clear example is post-harvest loss. This is one of the most um, impactful problem in the sector of agriculture in the Philippines. So, according to estimates, here in the Philippines, around 15 to 30% of agricultural produce is lost after harvest, depending on the commodity. That is not just waste. It represents lost income for farmers, lost opportunity for value creation, and lost potential for the entire supply chain. When we zoom out and look at enterprises, the picture becomes even more significant. Micro, small, and medium enterprises, MSMEs, account for about 99.5% of all businesses in the country. This means that the backbone of the economy is really made up of small and medium scale actors, including those in agriculture and food systems. So that the potential for agri-based MSMEs is therefore very high, especially in terms of innovation, value adding, and rural development. However, despite this potential, access to financing systems, which is one of the biggest constraints, um, hampers development in the sector. Many agri enterprises struggle not because the ideas are weak, but because the financial systems around them are not designed for agricultural realities on the ground. Traditional financing often expect quick returns, but agriculture operates on longer production cycles, higher exposure to risk, and unpredictable external factors such as weather, supply fluctuations, and market volatility. On top of that, early stage innovation in agribusiness is often considered too risky for conventional funding structures. So, if we want to see more successful agri enterprises and more inclusive rural growth, there's needs to be a better alignment between financing systems and the realities of agribusiness. This is where government support becomes critical. So, not just in providing funding, but in designing policies, financial instruments, and infrastructure that understand the unique nature of agriculture. Because without the alignment of even strong ideas will continue to struggle to scale. Of course, innovation and support systems um, lacks also. So that is why it is a problem here in the Philippines. And of course, the weak market linkages that farmers are experiencing now. An update for Black Gold. Um, we are already registered in the Bureau of Internal Revenue, and we are also registered already, or we already registered in the Securities and Exchange Commission of the Philippines as a corporation, and we have an ongoing application at Food and Drug Administration, and we're also trying to process our utility model at the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. So this is our team. We have Jobriel Detenio, the chief finance officer, which is also the co-founder. Um, and of course, there's truly Morris Yu Jr., the chief operating officer, and also a co-founder. And we have our boss here, Keith Charles Ibikibel, the chief executive officer, which is also the co-founder. So you can contact us via Facebook. We have our Facebook account, Black Gold Food Corporation, and let me end with this. If we continue doing the same thing, we will continue getting the same results. Farmers will produce, others will capture value, and inequality will remain. But if we design the system or redesign the system Even small enterprises can create impact. Black Gold is not the solution, but it is a proof that a different approach is possible. And maybe, just maybe, that that is where change begins. And that would be all. Thank you so much for today.
Okay, so thank you so much. I see a comment here where people are saying, thank you so much for sharing a lot of lessons about how it was for you to start your agribusiness here and the principles behind it. And I think that's very particularly important for anyone who might be watching either now or later on when we upload. But speaking of, for those of you who are joining us this morning, please do stay on for our informal session that is exclusive to members and donors of the foundation. But for those of you who are joining us through our social media uploads 2 weeks later, I'm afraid this is the extent of what you can get without supporting the foundation or without donating to the foundation. The Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation is in partnership with the Management Association of the Philippines, and we are a member-supported non-profit organization. If you'd like to join us for informal sessions and join us live through our online calls with our speakers, do consider joining us as a member and donating to our cause. For now, let's please show our certificate of appreciation. The Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation, in partnership with the Management Association of the Philippines, together with all of our members, individual, corporate, special partner institutions, and senior special partner institutions, all present this certificate of appreciation to Mr. Mauro S. Goyo Jr. for his invaluable support in the advocacy and promotion of agribusiness and countryside development, and for his commendable and unselfish services rendered to this foundation as our resource speaker, given on our 8th online session for 2026, this 5th day of May in Pasig City, Philippines. Signed, Ernie Ordonez as our chairman and myself as our president. We hope, regardless, that today's session has brought you a lot of value. Perhaps you are in a similar business or a similar space. Perhaps you have stories to share as well to the foundation. We'd really love to get to know. Send us an email. Our links are in the description, or you can leave a comment down below, ask your questions to the speaker. We'll let them know and get back to you as soon as we can. But otherwise, we'll see you in our next session. Have a great day.